The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine Lapointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine Lapointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening. Well, hello. Welcome back to our audience who's around the world. I'm so excited to talk to you today about this today. Do you know anyone, with a gift or a skill that can heal others? There's so many right now who need to release and to restore themselves. And or perhaps you're feeling a strong call within you yourself to come forward and to step up and to be seen. And whether you've practiced a healing craft for years or you've just gained a new skill, there's no better time than right now to come out of hiding. Share what you're being called to do. Healers know this. We're feeling the call to rise. We have a sense that this is the time that we've been waiting for. Now is the time for us to start to shine, to do our thing, to be what it is that we are supposed to be in the world. And sometimes that's just an awareness or a feeling that you're here for good reason. You've arrived on the earth here at this time in history, and all that's going on to fulfill a specific purpose. Intuitive guidance shows up when we need it to keep us going, even when we're unsure. And I know that many are getting very specific messages coming through, and some are quiet and some are super loud. There's something that's drawing us to the desire for greater fulfillment and satisfaction of our soul. We want to heal what we need inside to be complete, even though many generations, it might be long ago and past times that actually requires the healing. I'm wondering, are you sensing that too? Are you sensing a pull to connect with someone and then sometimes a push when it's time to part ways? There are signs of hope and those that can help us aspire further, learn more, and want to consciously participate in our own growth and our own transformation. There's an awareness of being in a time of transition and the importance of honoring our spoken and unspoken plans and agreement. It's clear that healing needs to happen because there's a whole stream of people that are really hungry for support and the natural medicines that you can make available. And this means it's the perfect time to build a business. It's a perfect time for you to be seen and heard. As we know, the very heart of business is the opportunity to buy and to sell. And that's why our guest today will help us explore how to do that with soul. And so, sold is a really good thing. Oh, by the way, for those I haven't met before, I'm Lorraine Lapointe. I'm the host of this live radio and talk for TV program. And I'm here each week on the edge of fulfillment to explore and expand the thinking about how we can best show up in the world. And like our guest, I work with many wonderful people who've reached a point in their life when they're ready to release feelings of stress and overwhelm. They're ready to strengthen that sense of inner self-trust. so they can have greater impact as they fully show up in the world. Because what I found is that self-trust is the root of harmony and balance. As we recover from feeling fearful, lost, or alone, we can reconnect with that inner essence and reestablish greater peace of mind. We can feel stronger, more confident, more in control. And so much of that heavy baggage that we carry really isn't even ours. Quite often, the weight that we carry can be echoes from long past residing in our DNA. And all this can be healed because what we really want is the courage to live without all that toxic self-judgment, those inner voices telling us to be afraid of ridicule. And once we clear away the harmful limiting beliefs and dial down those negative inner voices that fill us with guilt or shame or blame, we can experience that greater fulfillment. Just before I introduce our guest, one other thing I'd like you to know, that anytime you have a question, a comment, a like, you're encouraged to share it, because here on the Edge of Fulfillment, you create an opportunity to make life much better for someone else in the world. Every comment, every like, every share means my company, Head Heart Synergy, provides access to a day of clean water wherever it's needed most in the world through b1g1.com. And this means that when you comment or you ask a question or you even listen on the replay to our podcast, you're helping someone in the world to live better. And I want to thank you for helping me to help others, and to be thankful that we can provide this service to others. So as we take a short break, go ahead, send an invitation to friends or family. Ask them to join us here on the Edge of Fulfillment, and they can jump in through the Head Heart Synergy Facebook fan page or through w4wn.com, which is Women4 Women Network Radio, or through talk4tv.com, and that's the TV part of our show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask me how. Shine online on Talk4TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn, gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/M-Fitness and join us right now.
Well, welcome back. Let's have a quick recap. Our guest today is known as a healer, and she's a healer who helps other healers who are allergic to sales. She's a medical intuitive and an energy healer, and she has been for over 30 years. Ann Hessen is a heart-centered sales expert. She has personally sold millions of dollars of programs and services, and her journey has made her uniquely qualified to help other heart-based business owners to transform their relationship to that building a business process. And, sometimes we're afraid of making those sales, but as the show title says, when you're sold, it's all about buying and selling with soul. So many gifted healers feel that they must hide We'll talk about that, I think, so that there's a need to boost their confidence and to allow them to bring gifts, experience, and expertise, as well as talents and their message into the world. And this is why Anne helps people do that confidently and easily grow so that they don't have to feel fake and pushy or salesy. And I'm not going to continue. Let's meet her right now. Welcome, Anne.
Welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
It is so good to have you here today. I'm very excited. And I'm so curious to learn more about you and the healer and your personal story. So, can you tell us a little bit about the woman behind the business? We can talk about the business later, but the woman behind the business. Where would you like to start?
Well, gosh, there's a lot of places I could start with that. I think one of the things that, strikes people is that, I'm just like, so yeah, I'm a healer. And then I do sale, like they don't go together very often, right? As I like to say, most healers are allergic to sales. And
Wow.
so I'm kind of a bit of a unicorn in that sense, right? That those things came together. And there was a long journey behind that that I won't go into in great detail, but to a certain degree, I have I've been, engaged with in some shape or form healing and transformational approaches to creating a life you love, that inner, like the deep inner, the going down deep, right? To find out what's possible for ourselves for 30 plus years. And I've always been somewhat entrepreneurial, right? I've always been someone who's interested. I mean, of course, I've had jobs along the way. I think we all have, right? Because sometimes we needed to, or we needed to learn something from that. But I've been self-employed most of my life. And so when you do that, at a certain point, you get, and I did get it at some point, that no matter how good you are at what you do, right? I mean, I was a massage therapist for years. I was a coach. I was other types of healers. There's a certain point at which you get that it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if you can't sell it.
And if nobody knows.
Yeah, right? Exactly. There's that, there's this old expression. Do you remember this? Build a better mousetrap and the world will be the path to your door. And it's really just super, super old expression, right? Yeah. What a load of crap that is, right? You could have a nuclear powered mousetrap and no one's going to come beat a path to your door. You have to market it. Right? Right. That's just the truth.
Absolutely. Because if nobody knows it's there, how do they come find it?
Exactly. So, that's a whole other thing to get into more the marketing aspect, but we'll stay more on the sales. But yeah, when people have some interest, if you can't actually sell it, you can't like get the words out of your mouth, if you can't put a price on it, if you can't, find out what it is that they're looking for so that you can offer a solution, it just doesn't work. Right. So,
so let me just check in with you. Mm-hmm. Were you, like, when I think massage therapist, I think of a clinic and I think of a group of people and people know that you're there and they come and find you. Was that different for your story, or how did you get so good at this?
Well, specifically do you really want to get into the massage in particular, or just more the overall?
Well, it just occurred to me that, because this particular episode is all about healing, and massage therapy is one form of healing.
Yes, for sure.
And I know that there'll be all kinds of different people and different walks of life listening.
Yes.
And that's perhaps one of the questions that they have. And of course, if you're listening and you have a question, pop it in the chat. Sure. And our wonderful producer, Roxy, can make the magic happen so that we can see it. But yeah, I'm just curious, because sales is something that's like hard for everyone.
It's scary for most people. It doesn't have to be, but it is scary for most people. I think so. And this I'll speak about it in terms of massage, but it's applicable to just about everything. Okay. I think a lot of the reason why most massage therapists, many of them, do work more in a group setting is partly because that is easier than trying to just do it completely solo, right?
Yeah. Good morning, Erica.
Yeah, it's easier, right? So it allows for, it's more likely for people to hear from you, and it is hard. It simplifies the process instead of just be like, I'm just going to be completely on my own and find all my clients myself and all that stuff. And it both work. It's just most people do work more in a group setting because they're so challenged by trying to do it on their own. And I did some of both. I just had completely private clients and had a, home office. But I had, getting there with sales. So when I was actually making a living as a massage therapist, which was a long time ago at this point, I also did have to work in a group setting to make ends meet. I kind of had to do some of both, right? At a certain point along the way, it really did hit me that I was going to have to get over this sales thing. And the one thing I want to say is so people who are healers and sort of soul-centered business owners, we are those people who are willing to go deep, right? We look at what is it that's holding me back? And we know it's not the outer circumstances that seem like it, that we know it's in here, right? If we're willing to look. And so there were many things in my life that I had transformed my relationship to them. And it's just that sales wasn't one of them. Right. And so there was
Put it on the end of the list.
Yeah. Right. And so there was a point at which I was like, hey, if I can grow in that way, if I can have that spiritual transformation, if I can have that personal transformation, why can't I have that about business and about sales too? Right. So there was a place. And so what I actually did, it's in a way, I feel like I did this, took one for the team. I went and got sales jobs. I was like, I'm taking this on. And I went and got a 100% commission sales job.
Ooh, that's great.
I'm not making money. Right.
How courageous.
And I did that sales training that company provided me, like my life depended on it. Right. I was like, I'm going to get this transformed. And in the process of doing that, I did discover that there were things I loved about sales. Right. So one of the things
those are two words that I've never heard in a sentence.
Well, did you know that
I loved about sales?
Do you know that sales is about helping people solve problems? Do you like to help people solve their problems?
When you put it that way.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's really what healers love to do, right? Is they love to help people solve whatever issue it is.
Guess what? That's what sales is about too. Do you know that sales is mostly about listening and less about talking?
I know that will come as a surprise to many, and goodness knows I've done my fair share of the run of the mouth. Right? So please tell us more.
As a healer, are you good at listening?
As a hypnotherapist, I have to be very good at listening, and I have to be very attuned to people's language. We don't realize how much we broadcast and how much and I notice that even with myself, sometimes I catch myself. Others catch me too, but we have to be very attuned to language.
Yeah. Well, and did you know that sales, when it's done, soulful sales, heart-centered sales, right, is about the listening that we just talked about, right? And then from that listening, asking really, really good questions to help people create clarity about what it is they really want. Is that also something that you like to do as a healer?
Yes, it is. And it looks like Erica's very much in agreement with what we're talking about. So she can really relate. So thanks, Erica.
How about this? So these are some of the things I learned along the way, right? And again, I did it the hard way. I went and got those sales jobs, right? So now you don't have to, because I did it for you. Right? So I figured out what works for people like us. Did you know that really great salespeople are very, very good at reading energy?
Now, I would have believed that, because I think when you're empathic, and most salespeople are highly sensitive empaths, they're and so that's what they do, even the ones that don't know it yet.
Exactly. If you told most of them you're good at reading energy, they'd be like, what? Right. But a great salesperson is really good at reading energy. So as a healer, are you good at reading energy?
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
likely.
can I mention the two channels? I sometimes
Yeah.
talk about this on the show, that we
Yeah.
actually communicate in two channels. We communicate on what we call the data channel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is the words, the numbers, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we communicate on what I call the PQ, or the positive intelligence channel, which
Mm-hmm.
is a mix of IQ and EQ. And it's
Mm-hmm.
it's all that unspoken,
Yes.
intuitive
Mm-hmm.
piece that is the energy piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you starting to get that as a healer, you actually already have a lot of skills but I would say both skills and gifts that are very, very helpful in sales. You just didn't know it.
For those healers listening, they need to think about what you've just said, because that's absolutely remarkable. Say it again so it sinks in, because
So
I
as a
really need to hear it.
you already have a lot of skills and gifts that are extremely useful and powerful and effective in sales, reading energy, listening, asking questions that help create clarity, and helping people solve problems. These are all things you love to do and you're good at. And they're all at the very heart of heart-centered sales.
Yeah,
So I
there's
think
the heart. There's the heart.
yes, right. So I think the main problem is that people don't understand. We have all these preconceptions about what sales has to be, because we've all had some negative sales experiences, right? And because just culturally, there's all these stereotypes about sales, and they get reinforced because some people do sales in a really crappy way.
Yeah, I think we've all had that experience, where we feel manipulated, or we feel that somebody's forcing themselves on you, or you feel there's a sense of guilt if you get guilted into buying things,
Mhm.
or
All
I
kinds
mean, that's where buyer's remorse comes in, right?
There's some, we could probably spend 2 hours just talking about all of the negativity around sales, right? And
Exactly.
it's just, but if you think about it, we've also all had some wonderful experiences in sales, right? We've all probably had experiences where the person who, whether we thought of them as a salesperson or not, they really listened, they respected us, they asked great questions, they paid attention to what we said, they had expertise in their area, so that once they understood what it was we needed, they could really make us very expert recommendations that were tailored to what we really needed, that they'd actually helped us figure out. Have you ever gone in and you're like, you don't even know what you need, and the salesperson like really guides you through a process where you're like, now I know exactly what I need, and you didn't even know, right? And then they were able to offer you something that absolutely met your needs. And so that's a great experience in and of itself, right? That really is.
It really is. Actually, one of my clients comes to mind, because he works at Best Buy,
Mhm.
and he says that people walk in and they're like deers in the headlight. They
Right?
know they need something, but they don't actually know what they need. And that his greatest thing is that he takes them into his, like, under his wing, and then he
Yes.
can show them all the possibilities and
Right.
options. And then it's like a smorgasbord. You get to pick what you
Yes.
want with guidance.
Right. And I guarantee you that what he does is he asks a lot of questions before he makes any recommendations, because
Yeah.
that's really what a good salesperson is, right? So it's because otherwise it's just like all this information. So another thing that's great sales is educating. It's educating people, educating them to know what they should know in order to make a good decision for themselves. So if you like educating people and helping them, find information that will be useful to them, you also have it. That's another great skill you already have that's helpful in sales. Okay.
Yeah, and what I have noticed, though, is sometimes when we get asked questions, we get the verbal diarrhea, because we
Yeah.
want to tell them everything we know.
That's why it's questions first before we do all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's, well, I want to say two things, and then I will say something quick and then go back to that. Okay. So But that's what has us be sold, spelled SOLD, is that they really listened. They, they took care of us. They helped us make a really informed decision, all of that stuff. And then you end up being like, you end up being sold on the product, right? And that's a good feeling when you're like, oh, I'm totally sold. Like I needed a new computer recently. I had been using a MacBook Pro since 2014, and it's actually still worked great, but there were some new things I needed. So I went to the Apple Store. I'm already sold. I already know what I want. I walked in. I want the new MacBook Pro that just came out in October. That's what I want. I'm already sold.
Right.
Right. Okay. Was that a good feeling on my part? Just knowing I already know what I want. It's everything good. Right. That's being sold on something. It's actually a state of being, rather than a transaction, is to be sold. Now, in that case, I was sold walking in the store. I might have walked in, I don't know what I need, right? And then in that case, the salesperson, if they were good, they would have asked me a lot of questions. What do you need it for? What are you going to be using it for? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's my best recommendation, and sold, right?
Right.
So that's sold, SOLD, right?
And that's the one everyone's familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sales happen very easily when people are in that state of being sold, SOLD. But the distinction is they're sold on the product, right? They're sold on the product or the service, the thing that they're buying. And honestly, most of the time, that's all that needs to happen for a transaction to happen. But there's this whole other thing that's available, which is SOUL apostrophe D. I feel like the apostrophe just makes it easier. And that's because you're not just sold on you. That's not just about the product. That's about the interaction. That's you having had, not only was that salesperson knowledgeable, respectful, all those things, but they were real, right? They were being their real human selves with you, as well as asking good questions, being respectful, and knowing what they're doing. And when that happens, then you're really sold, right? That's the person you'll always go back to. That's the person you send all your friends to. When you walk into that store, ask for Joe. Joe's awesome. Joe will take care of you, right?
Right. And so that is buying and selling with soul.
Yes, right? Right? Have you ever had that experience? It could even be it could be someone on the phone, right? And you called in and there was frustration and you're trying to figure out, and that person, they just went the extra mile for you. They totally took care of you. They were like, let's figure this out. And and you're sold, and you may never talk to that person ever again. Right. But
it's funny you say that, because I called the other day to a help center, which was,
and because you could be sold, and it's more like customer support than it is sales per se. But yes,
how you call them and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it can be an absolute nightmare, and it can be a delight.
I got a girl on the phone, and I think her name was Jill. Honestly, I did not want to get off the phone. I wanted to talk to her all day.
Jill was real. You were feeling her heart and soul, because Jill,
oh my goodness,
she got you sold.
We laughed, we giggled, we were a little sad in a couple of spots like that. She was truly tapping into who I was and allowing me to tap into who she was.
Yeah. And so the thing about that is, you could be sold on the product and be sold on the person selling it. And that's just the best thing ever, right? It's like you're like, oh, yeah, really. But you can also be sold on the product and not sold on the person, but they were fine, right? Like, they took care of you. You're probably going to buy. You probably may have, I don't know about you, but I've had the experience where I was totally sold on the product, and I was so not sold on the salesperson. Like, they were a jerk, that I deliberately didn't buy from them. I went to another store because I'm like, that person's a jerk. And I don't like, I've actually done that, right? I mean, I wouldn't do it like vindictively typically, but if they were like a real jerk, I would actually do that, right? But you also, sometimes you're sold on the person, right? You connected, but it turned out the product or the service or whatever it is they were selling actually wasn't a fit for you, right? It just wasn't. So you're not going to buy it just because you love them, but they're who you're going to go back to when you either are ready for that, right? Maybe it just wasn't the right time, or they're who you're going to send other people to who do need what they had to offer. because you were sold on them.
Yeah, because if I could call back to that call center, I would speak to Jill
Can I
every
speak to Jill? Is
single
Jill working
time.
today?
Yeah, is she at work today? What's her extension? Yeah. I absolutely. I think you are so crystal clear for our healers, but
Yes.
but also for others. Anyone who's And it's interesting because I've had people say to me, "Well, I don't sell in my job." Well, I challenge that because I think every single person sells every single day, including whether you work in the, outside the home or in the home, whether you are, a parent, you're selling things. Sad for the story, yes, Erica. Whether you're selling things to your kids, your husband, your mother, your father, like we're all selling all the time.
Yeah, we are. Absolutely. With our kids, and our kids are selling to us all the time. Kids are great natural salespeople. Very persistent. Right?
Absolutely.
But I wanted to get back to the thing you were talking about, doing the launching at, and we sometimes people ask to find out more what we do, and then we sort of do the verbal diarrhea thing or blah, 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 and then right, because we've probably all done that, right?
Well, and then you're 10 minutes into it and their eyes are glazed over and you know that you've done something you shouldn't have done, but you're so deep into it, you can't shut up.
Exactly. And you're like, why am I still talking?
There's a little voice in the back of your mind going, be quiet, be quiet.
But I don't know how to get out of this, right? So I call that the tell me more trap. Okay. Right. I call it the tell me more trap. So here's how the tell me more trap is. How it goes. So someone asks to find out more about what you do, whether they actually like called you to find out about it, or you just happened to meet them at a party and like it ended up coming up and they say something like, tell me more about that, or that's really interesting, or how do you help people, or it could be a lot of different ways, but can you get all of those questions boiled down to they're asking you to tell them more, right? Okay. So I call it the tell me more trap because it is a trap that prospective client sets for you without meaning to, and believe me, they would not set it for you if they knew, because you both get caught in it. Okay. And they're not enjoying it any more than you are. That's the thing where you just launch, right? Because we could talk forever about what we do as healers and coaches and what I like to call soulpreneurs. We do what we do because we're passionate about it, not because we just kind of want to have a business. Right? We're fascinated by everything about it, right? And we could talk for hours about it and where it came from and what it's done for us and all the amazing stories and how it all works. It's endlessly fascinating to us.
I mean, I was a teacher. So do I need to say more? Have you ever been in a room full of teachers? Oh my goodness.
Yes. So that's like when you're with the other healers, that's when you can have those conversations. But when you're with someone who might be interested in working with you, you have to zip it because they don't care. When they said, tell me more. For being so blunt.
That's true. Right. They don't care.
And when they said, tell me more, they didn't mean tell me how it all works. Tell me everything you know about it, which is where your brain tends to go. Like, oh, they want to find out more. Get out, right? What they really meant was, how could this help me? Right. But not even, and I don't mean how like the mechanics, just like they're wanting to find out like if it's something that they want to find out more about. Right. So the single most important thing, like if you change nothing else about how you talk about what you do, like if this is the only change you ever make, it will make a huge difference. There's actually 5 or in some cases 6 steps to perfectly handle the tell me more trap. And all of them are in the free gift that I have for you guys. so we'll get to that later. Okay. But I'm going to talk about step 1 because step 1 is the most important. Okay. So when someone invites you to tell them more, this is what you want to say. Okay. And you should like write this down. Okay. You say, I would love to. But first, let me ask, what interests you about it? What interests you about it? And then shut up and listen.
Now that's a simple statement to remember.
Yeah. And you say, I'd love to. Right? You're not like being cagey. You're like, I'd love to tell you more, but let me ask, what got your attention or what interests you about it? And then let them tell you. Because do you get that them being interested in working with you is one possible reason they might have been interested. They also might just be being polite. Right? They're making small talk. They might have a cousin who they think maybe does something similar. And so they're kind of like just wanting to like, is this the thing my cousin does? Or they might have, know someone who is interested in studying what you do. And so they're like, oh, that came up recently in this other conversation. Tell me more about that, right? They might have a referral for you. They might know someone who recently expressed interest in something, or it sounded like maybe it's what you do. So they're kind of wanting to find out more because in their head, they're thinking, oh, maybe I'll connect you with my friend Sue. All right. You don't know. So if they have zero interest in this for themselves, they maybe just have no interest to them, but they have this friend named Sue who they think might be interested, and you don't find out that that's what's going on, and you just jump in to like tell them everything about what you do with the idea of trying to sell them. How's that going to go?
Not well. Reminds me of sitting on a plane. I was sitting on a plane and somebody said to me, so what do you do? And I said, I'm a hypnotherapist. Oh, that is so interesting. And an hour and a half later, I realized that we had done talk about nothing but hypnotherapy. And I didn't know their name, where they from, anything about them. And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, how rude.
Yeah, we've all done it.
They love the conversation, but what you've just outlined is so much more effective for both people in the conversation.
Like I said, you both get caught in the trap, and neither one really enjoys it.
Yeah, no, I love this, Anne, because what you're giving people is you're empowering them to have better conversations with people.
Exactly. Find out why they're interested, and then you can respond to that. And then there's more to it, but literally if you just change that, you'll find it works so much better, because then now you have at least some sense of why did they ask, and what could you additionally ask them to find out even more of the interest, but also like what information might be helpful. Because they might literally just say, well, I was just talking with someone the other day who, expressed an interest in, that energy healing or massage or whatever. And so I wanted to find out more because I'm thinking that, it might be good to connect you. Well, can you get that is a completely different conversation than you would have had?
Yeah, I liked Erica's comment just then is when we drop into self.
Yeah,
and,
like it's about being present.
We forget to relate to the other.
Exactly. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens, a lot of reasons why we do that. I'm going to just highlight one right now. And that is when we are missing the necessary skills for the situation that we're in, we then feel like, I don't know what to do, right? Just because we're missing the skills. And so we were, so it's too uncomfortable. So we're like, we're still there, except we're not, because our brain is going, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do now?
Oh,
right?
Dropping into self.
So you can't be, right? You get it? Like that's why or one of the reasons why you don't drop into self is because you're missing some skills that would allow you to just be present if you had them. Does that make sense the way I put it that way?
Yeah, I would love to hear if we have other guests who are listening or other listeners. So what I'm hearing you say, if I can just, is that once you trigger that fear, once that negative voice in your head goes, you don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. What am I supposed to do now? Blah, 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 blah. I'm supposed to be selling. I don't have to do that. I don't want to do that. Oh my God, blah, 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 right? Yeah.
There's a potential for a transaction here.
Great. You're like, oh my God, I want to know more. What do I do? Yeah.
we are strange and wonderful creatures, are we not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us more, Anne. This is absolutely amazing and so applicable, as I said, to I think anyone who's listening, whether you're a healer or not.
So the thing that one of the things that is just missing is that people are missing the skills, right? So an analogy is, and anyone will get this, but especially if you're a musician, you'll really get this just because that's the analogy I'm going to use. So if you're, let's say you play piano, so you're a pianist, and you what do? You practice and you do your scales and arpeggios, right? Right. So you get the skill, you get the chops, you get the muscle memory going, right? You do that not because you're going to play scales and arpeggios on stage, right? You do it because without the skill, you can't play then the actual piece of music. And without the skills, you can't be with the audience. That makes sense? Like if you once you build the right level of skill to be able to play a certain piece of music, that scales and arpeggios, and then it's practicing that piece, then you go out on stage and you can be you, because you're not worried about what's the next note. You're not worried about, am I going to hit it right? You can't be present with the audience when you're worried about that you don't know what to do. But when like, I know this. I know what I'm doing. I know what all the notes are. I know I'm going to hit them because I have this level of, I know this. Then you are free to just be present, will allow the music to come through you, be with the audience completely. And it's like a spiritual experience, right? But you couldn't do that if you went on stage and you're like, I don't know how to play this. Okay.
Yeah.
And sales is exactly like that. You're suddenly like on stage with the person and you're like, I don't know what to do, because you don't know what skills are required and therefore you haven't practiced them.
And that is so easily rectified.
Exactly. Right? Sales is just a set of skills. Just like, if whatever it is you do in your work, you didn't always know how to do that. You had to practice it. You learned to play a sport, you learned to play an instrument, you learned to read and write, and you can learn sales. Oh, awesome. And specifically, you can learn heart-centered sales, which is the only kind you should be doing.
That is awesome. So we have a few minutes left. Mm-hmm. So can we explore heart-centered sales a little more? Or the other thing that we often do on the show is we pull an oracle card.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do that. But before we do it, just real quick. So what I was just talking about, the tell me more trap, and I said that's step one. Yeah. So there is a gift that I have for you that Lorraine will make available, and that in that you'll have the whole thing of like everything you do from step one all the way down to step 5 or 6. There's either 5 or 6 steps depending on the circumstance. So I just want you to know, if you only change that one, you'll be doing way better. But if you do all of it, you'll be amazed. It's how to have a conversation that doesn't feel like selling, right? Because it's coming from soul, right? And it just has people leaning in and wanting to be with you and work with you.
Oh, that is so wonderful. And what you're talking about is a gift called Sales Conversation Secrets, Heart-Centered Sales Made Simple.
Yes. And
our wonderful producer Roxy's put up the web address for that. Mm-hmm. So, go ahead and jot that down or whatever. Anyway, while you're doing that, let me shuffle the cards.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. And you know how this works. Mm-hmm. I'll just shuffle until you say stop, and then we'll see what cards.
Okay, great. So shuffle away. All right. Let's stop right there.
All right. Oh, I like this. I don't know what does it say.
Can you read
it? Yeah, it's called, there we go. Wish Upon a Star. With a young gal holding a beautiful star to herself. So let's see what Wish Upon a Star is talking about today.
All right.
It says, do you believe dreams can become real? What if the world around you holds promise, but you have not yet realized? Think of a wishing well. You infuse a coin with your intention. You tune into the feeling of having a particular experience, and then you toss the coin into the well to symbolize the act of letting the how go. And then you walk away and you allow the universe to do its part in the cooperative or co-creative partnership. Another method is to wish upon a star. As we look back to our origins, today, dream and play with different realities. Know that those beautiful dreams you've been nurturing are in the process of becoming real. Every dream you believe in and hope for is a call to a twinkling star. No wish is ever wasted when you wish upon a star.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't know who that reading was for, but yeah. So, well, maybe in terms of this whole selling piece for healers, I can see the connection to the wish upon a star. It's not a hope and a wish.
It is, because I think for healers, because this tends to be such a big block for them, and it's one of the things that I like to say is the fundamental relationship of most healers, and I would say most coaches too, and other kind of heart-centered people. The fundamental relationship of most of them to sales is one of avoidance. That's the fundamental relationship. You just don't want to deal with it, right? Like, can I just put up a website and people will just call me and book with me, right? And it's like, well, I mean, it can happen.
You still have to talk to them.
Right. It doesn't. And so
something.
but it's right. And it's like, it's avoidance because it's of all this uncomfortable stuff. Right. But truly, that's the fundamental relationship. And the thing that, dropping back into reality, right, is that the only part of your business that makes you money is sales. So if because of all the limiting beliefs and the preconceptions and all that stuff, if that's causing your fundamental relationship to sales to be one of avoidance, it means you are literally avoiding the only part of your business that makes you money. And that is a problem if you really want to be able to make a living, right? And to help a lot of people. Because you can't help a lot of people as a healer unless you are making money. I mean, unless you're like independently wealthy, right? But that's not the case for most healers, right? So do you know what I mean? It's like, you can't, if you really want to help a lot of people and have a big impact in the world, this is something that has to get addressed so that you really can have a prosperous business. So that's what I'm seeing in it, is that's the wish, right? It's like, I just want to help a lot of people. Why does it have to be so hard, right? I think that's sort of like the healer's heart speaking. Right?
I think that's the driving force for so many soulpreneurs. And so I want to stress again that they can receive your gift to them, which is Sales Conversation Secrets, heart-centered sales made simple at soulpreneursuccesscode.com. That's soul, SOUL, preneursuccesscode.com. And that is such an awesome gift to receive, and just such a gift. We have just a minute or so left. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that you haven't been able to share so far, or a final thought?
Sure. I mean, I think that and again, this applies to a lot of other people, but I'm going to speak specifically to the healers, right? Because that's really like who I'm here for. I'm here for the healers. Okay. And is that what you do is extraordinary. What you do changes lives. In some cases, what you do may save lives. And you deserve to be able to do that work and to be able to make the impact that you're here to make on the planet. And to do that, you need some support, because we all do. And the problem with that is that healers are always trying to support everyone else and tend not to allow themselves to get supported, right? It's like the kind of thing that we do. So I just want to remind you that support is available, that you deserve support, that is, for a lot of times I find that's so yes, you want to get a breakthrough and be able to be effective at sales, right? You want to get a breakthrough and be able to talk about what you do, and a breakthrough around being out there and visible in the world. I find for healers a lot of times that's the biggest breakthrough, is the choice to like accept and ask for support. because and I just want you to know it's there and you deserve it.
That's so awesome. And they can also go for support to Lorraine.link/heart-centered sales.
Yes.
And they can connect with either you or they can connect with me. Either way, I'll repeat that for our radio listeners, Lorraine.link/heart-centered sales. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Anne. And it's been just such a pleasure.
It's been very fun.
Yeah, for me too. And I am your host, Lorraine Lapointe of Head Heart Synergy, reminding you that at the edge of fulfillment, there's always a choice. You can stay on the edge, getting what you've already got, or become just a little courageous and move beyond the edge to get what you really want. And we'll see you next week.